Hey, Nelson, Alcoholic Addict. That is not my real name. That is my pen name that I use here at LOL Sober. I read a really interesting article recently in Mel magazine about a study that was done on people who are bullshitters. It's a complex story that digs into how propaganda and disinformation spreads and who spreads it and why they spread it. And it's just a really interesting story, especially in the year 2022. I included a link in the written version of my newsletter. If you're just listening to this, I think if you search Mel Magazine, that's MEL, Mel Magazine, and the word bullshit or bullshitters should bring it up if you want to check it out. It is pretty interesting. There were a few specific parts that jumped out at me as a recovering addict and alcoholic who is prone to bullshitting himself. That's for sure. One is that the study concludes that the biggest bullshitters in the world are, drumroll, they live in the United States and also in Canada. So yes, I'm going to take that. Number one again, God bless America. We are the best liars on the planet. And we also believe the most bullshit. So bravo, Americans. The second part of it is that in the fine print of the study, the researchers come right out and say that this study might not have been able to catch expert level bullshitters, that the real professional liars probably slipped through the cracks. And I won't lie, I immediately was thinking, I bet I'm so good at lying that I could have fooled this study. And then I realized, it's probably not something to brag about, is it? The biggest thing, though, that stood out to me is that the study concludes that bullshitters are, in fact, quite susceptible to bullshit themselves. And I believe that's probably true in general, but within the addict and alcoholic community that I'm a part of, I feel like we have a pretty good radar for when people are full of shit, and also have a willingness to let them know that they're full of shit. I've found that personally to be very helpful in my recovery. I want people around me who are loving and are gentle, but they will not let me get away with shenanigans. They will pull my covers, as some people say. Let me add one big, very important caveat to that. I actually think I'm very, very good at bullshitting myself, then believing my own bullshit. As one friend of mine says, my brain, half of my brain is manufacturing the bullshit, and the other half is buying it. I'm susceptible to that for sure. Definitely happened when I was in active addiction. I did it all day, every day. I had to keep the lie alive that I could manage a life that included drugs and alcohol, and it was total bullshit. I'd love to say that once I got sober, that ended, that I started having a better personal lie detector, but I guess I do, but I also, sometimes I don't. On a weekly basis, I convince myself of things that aren't entirely true or sometimes not true at all. The most frequent thing that happens for me is I'll have a passing thought that someone did something assholey, and then the bullshit machine goes to work and builds that one passing thought into a whole story that I believe. I'll give you a specific recent example. I was at a grocery store a couple weeks ago, and a guy pushed his cart to the car, loaded his groceries, and then just carefully docked the cart in the middle of the parking lot. Like, he was 20 feet from the cart return. He spent so much time lining up the cart just right so he could leave it that he could have just put the freaking thing back. Come on, dude. I'm watching this and I'm getting aggravated, and I'll just admit, yes, I am one of those people who thinks you can tell a lot about people who don't return their carts. I'll leave it at that. So I'm watching this guy and I'm thinking, what a selfish prick. Like, what happens if the wind starts blowing that cart and it smashes into somebody's car? Or what if wind starts blowing and it plows into an old lady walking across the parking lot? And even if it doesn't, that's essentially littering, right? That's leaving something behind for someone else to clean up. As I sat there, I got myself all worked up. I think within 10 seconds, I'd gotten to the point where I was seriously thinking about knocking on this guy's car window. I had seen something that I decided was asshole behavior. Then I figured out that, the guy himself, he must be an asshole. And that I was the asshole corrector who was going to go teach this dude a lesson. I got out of the car, decided to let it go, started walking into the grocery store. Then I watched him hop out of his car and come get the cart and return it. I think he was just like turning the car on for a minute and warm it up in the winter. I don't know. But it was yet another reminder to be careful of the stories we whip up. Like, sometimes they're not true. Here's the frustrating thing, right? I've been sober for over a decade. I know exactly what a lie is. I know. So when I tell one, or I'm thinking of telling one, I have a part of me that starts waving a big stop sign. Like, hey, that's a lie, don't do it. But there's also a reason in court they say you got to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Because you can tell the truth and throw in some bullshit too. You can just like sort of sprinkle it on, put a little whipped cream, little bullshit whipped cream on there. One thing I noticed is I got like a 1200 something on my SATs, but I've noticed that my score seems to have gone up about 10 points a year for a while now, and we're currently sitting at 1290, I think. I know I didn't get a 1290, but my score did have a 12 at the beginning, so I think, like, what's the harm, But that's not a good way for me to be seeing things, I know too much about the slippery slope of being my own editor-in-chief, I started out drinking and drugging like, hey, I'll do Fridays and Saturdays, And then it was like, well, Thursday's basically the weekend too. And on and on and on. Pretty soon I was drinking and drugging every day, and I came up with reasons why that's okay. And it's just a reminder. One teeny tiny fib can become 3 small lies, which then can become one big lie, and on and on. It can just keep going on and on and on. And I cannot let my own bullshit get past my own bullshit goalie, You guys have taught me too much in recovery to let that happen. And I know the difference. I know. And I need to apply that at all times. Plus, did I mention I'm pretty smart? I got like a 1350 on my SATs, right? Did I tell you that? Just kidding. Thanks for letting me share.